Welcome to this video where we're going to talk about one of the most important topics in the human experience, death. It's actually one of my favorite topics because it reminds me that things are continuously changing, that I'm not going to be making these YouTube videos for the rest of eternity, and that one day the sweet release of death is going to envelop me in its arms and I can just become one with the universe as a whole. In this video, we're going to talk about why death is actually a good thing, why we should embrace our own mortality, and how it can help us to live a real life while we are here, because ultimately, there's nothing we can do except face fate head on, and the fate for all of us is the same: death. Before we get into it, let's think about the opposite, the other extremity of human beings not dying, which is living forever. People think that living forever would maybe be a good thing, but I don't think they've really thought about it properly. Eternity is a really long fucking time, like a very, very long time. Think about how long a few moments can feel in a conversation with somebody that you don't really want to be in with. It just drags and drags and drags. Eventually, eternity would be the same. It would become boring. You would have learned to play all the instruments, you would have learned all the skills, you'd have done all the different sexual positions, you would have done all of the things that you wanted to do. And then eventually, you would just get bored. Relationships would be strained because people would run out of things to talk about, and there would be no real reason to appreciate each other because we're not temporary. If you get injured or something like that, you'd have to live for eternity with like a leg missing or whatever it is. Culture would stagnate because ultimately we need new generations to keep coming through. But if people kept living forever and ever, then the older people would get all the power. And so ultimately, what I'm saying is living forever would just suck for so many different reasons. Living in the short term can suck as well. Like being mortal can suck. I'm not saying it's all sunshine and puppy dogs and rainbows and stuff. But ultimately, when you dig into it, being a short-term, transitory, ephemeral being, in my opinion at least, is way better than the alternative, which is living forever, getting bored, not appreciating things, and then just being surrounded by people that are feeling the same way, bored and fed up. So living forever probably wouldn't be as good as we like to sometimes think when we're in denial about the reality of life, which is that we're all going to die. Now, the reason that I like to talk about death and think about death is because it's a totally bullshit-free approach to understanding life and how to live it in a real way. There's so much bullshit out there. Well, a lot of the bullshit is only bullshit because it doesn't have any kind of evidence. There's no proof. It's just people speculating and telling you what they want to believe to be the truth about life so that they can keep living in accordance with their own personality defects, let's say, and things like that. When it comes to death, it's one of the few things that 99.99999% of people will contest. There's always somebody out there that's going to disagree or try and, make an argument like when we do die, we're going to hop into another dimension or whatever it is. But in general, most people will agree that we are going to die. And we all know that we're going to die. And so it's just a very good starting point for figuring out how to live a good life. Nobody can really tell you what happens before you were born. Nobody can really tell you what happens after we die. It's all speculation. And so really the most sensible approach, in my opinion, to figuring out how to live a good life and figuring out what life even is to just take that starting point of the fact that it is going to end one day. We are going to die. It's going to be over. It's going to be done. So use that as a way to get into life or to become more aware of life and to live a real life in a real way. And that was a word salad. But basically what I'm saying is we know we're going to die, accept it, and use that as a starting point for building whatever it is that you do with your life in accordance with that knowledge. The reason that thinking about death and contemplating on it and accepting it and embracing it is so important is because it raises your awareness. As soon as you become cognizant of the fact that you are going to be dead one day, then it shifts your perspective on everything. You can embrace death and not appreciate the value of your own time. You can embrace death and not be open to the idea that things keep changing. You know that if you are going to die one day, then you're moving through time and space towards that day, whenever it is, or night. Some people die at night. And ultimately, those two things, being aware of time and change, actually are the things that open you up to be able to start living a real life. And that awareness is what makes reflecting on death so important. If you feel stuck, you're in a rut, you're living a life that you don't want to live, you're passive, you're not taking action, you're not doing the things you want to do, basically, then you need to really start thinking about death. Because if you really think about death and face it without fear, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit in this video, then you're not going to be wasting your time on bullshit things that you don't even want to be doing. You can't live a real life without realizing that it's all going to end and that you don't know what's going to happen after that, and that it may be your only chance ever to experience and be conscious of life here on planet Earth. And when you think of it like that, this awareness of death is like a key that unlocks the door to real life. And when you start walking through that door, that's when things get really interesting. Once you become aware of death and really kind of internalize the fact that it is coming and there's nothing you can do, well, you get to a place of acceptance. When you get to that place of acceptance, you can start taking better actions in your life. Better actions just means you're taking actions that come from a place of conscious choice. If you know that you're going to die, well, probably it's going to awaken a sense of urgency within you, and you're not going to sit around all day distracting yourself with social media or endlessly vegetating in front of a Netflix screen. You know that your choices are actually going to move you through time and the process of change, because death shows you that time and the process of change are the inherent fabric of reality as human beings experience it. And so ultimately, accepting death is a very powerful thing because it awakens the power of choice within you. The reason it does that is purely because you know your time is limited. So are you going to use your time on some bullshit thing that's not going to take you where you want to be with the only life that you have? Or are you going to use your time to invest in the journey of growth towards wholeness and realness and expressing who you really are in the world whilst you can before you die? When we become aware of death and we accept it in this way that we're talking about, ultimately what we do is we end up changing our focus. Instead of focusing on all of the unreal things in the world, which are basically just the goals, the values, anything that we've picked up externally and internalized as our own because of social conditioning and programming and old patterns and scripts and all that kind of stuff. Instead of focusing on that unreal stuff, we shift to the real stuff. We know that our time is limited, and we know that we can choose, because the power of choice has been awakened in us, we can choose to invest our time in real things instead of unreal things. That's a really simple shift, but I've seen how powerful it is in my own life and with my clients, because there's a law of life that what you focus on grows. And so if you focus on your real goals and your real intentions and your real values, and if you choose to invest your time on your real intentions and your real vision, then those things are going to grow. And it all starts by knowing that you are just temporary as a being. And so you need to use the energy that you have, the time, energy, and attention to grow something real. That is the main reason that focusing on death is so important. It allows you to live that real life. Another amazing benefit of facing the fact that you're going to be dead one day is that it makes you more humble. The reason it makes you more humble is because when you accept death, you have to accept that your life is not fully within your control. All you know is that at some undisclosed time and location in the unknown future, you're going to drop dead. And ultimately, that has nothing to do with you or the choices that you make or what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like. It's just going to happen. And when you understand that, it takes you out of your ego. It brings humility into your life. And when you become humbled by life in this way, that's when you actually become free. You're no longer trying to force everything through your ego and your desires to try and stay the same and avoid emotional stuff and all of the things that cause us to resist life, you become more accepting of life overall, and it puts you in a much deeper relationship with life. You're no longer trying to be omniscient. You don't need to know everything because you accept that you can't, because this one fact that you're going to die shows you how futile it is to even attempt to know everything. You don't try to be omnipotent and to have power over everything, because again, the fact that you're going to die one day shows how pointless that even is, to even live in a way where we can be all powerful. And if you look around you, so many of us do try to be omniscient and omnipotent in a very unreal way. And it's because they're forcing everything through ego. I've made loads of videos about this. Ultimately, we have underlying emotional stuff, shame usually. Most people are shame-driven. That causes them to create a fake identity that they put out into the world. And then they try and control everything or to act like they know everything to keep that ego in place. But that ego is the thing that stops us from living the real life we could be living, because it's a filter between us and life. And death is the ultimate way of shattering that filter. And it's because the ego is the opposite of humility. But if you want to live a real life, you need to be humble. And the best way to be humble is to just embrace the fact that you're going to die one day and there's nothing you can do about it. Embracing death in this way and being humbled by the fact that it's going to happen actually allows you to have better relationships with everybody else. You don't take things so seriously. You can let things go because, first of all, like we said, you know that your time, energy, and attention are the most important things you have. They're precious. And so if you're going around on the hamster wheel of negative thoughts, or you're judging people, or you're holding on to things because of what somebody said to you, or whatever other incident may have arisen that caused your mind to get all wobbly, then you can just let it go because you're going to die one day. So why waste time on worrying about that stuff? The other thing is that when you embrace death at the level of yourself, you also have to embrace death at the level of everybody else. Everyone is going to die. Our whole generation is going to be gone in like 100 years, guaranteed. And so when you look at the world around you through that lens, you can actually be more compassionate towards other people. You can see that everyone's just dealing with this crazy situation called life. They're trying to make the most of it. They're trying to come to terms with all of the chaos and the confusion and the fact that they are all going to die one day without knowing when, and that they've got no control over it. And so when you understand that we're all in the same boat, you can kind of take the focus off yourself and that ego, and you can kind of just focus on the world around you. You can focus on really showing up in it as your real self in a real way. But then doing that is almost always going to lead to you serving the world in some way, making your values, your realness, real or valuable to other people. And then when you can get to that point, that's going to cause you to be more interdependent with the world around you. And you're just going to go much deeper into life. But the only way you can get there is by accepting that everybody is temporary. Everybody is temporary. And so you might as well make the most of them and give to them what you can whilst you can, so you can relate to them in a real deep way. What we're really talking about is getting to a place of gratitude. If you know that time is precious and that everyone is temporary and that you are not going to be here at some undisclosed time in the future, it can make you so grateful for everything. Good, bad, whatever. Every moment of our lives is really precious. And when you can tap into that gratitude and you can kind of flow through life, just being grateful for things, it really puts you in this state where you're free. Freedom, I think, is just an acceptance of the truth and a relationship with it. Relationship just meaning an embracing of it in the sense that you're working with it, you're living it, breathing it. When you can get gratitude to this deep level, it really just means that you accept everything that you have. Gratitude and acceptance are just the same thing. That's how I see it. And if you can accept life, then you accept yourself, then you become grateful, and it just raises your energy level. You can't be grateful for something and feel low energy at the same time. Like, you really can't, because gratitude is going to pump you up. You're going to know that all of this is just so mysterious and it's a bit of a gift, and you don't even know why you're here really, but you know that you are, and you know it's amazing, and you know it's going to end, so you better make the most of it while you can. And so that attitude of gratitude is something that you can really cultivate and that you can walk through life embodying purely by knowing that you are going to die one day. And that is a gift in itself, because it means that all of these things that happen to you are so precious, and it will change your experience of your experiences, which is a weird sentence, because there's not going to be any unnecessary friction or resistance that you're putting between yourself and those experiences because you want them to be something else. You know that your life is just your life, and it is what it is, and you accept it and you're grateful for it because you're going to die. All of this, accepting the fact that you're going to die, realizing you can make choices, seeing that time is precious, and being grateful for life, really just makes you present. Like, a deep presence is the gift of accepting the fact that you're going to die one day. Like, try it right now. Like, pause the video or just close your eyes and take a deep breath or whatever it is you want to do. But reflect on the fact that you're going to die. You can't actually do that and not be present. It instantly just drags you into the present moment. It's like a splash of cold water saying, look, this is the way things are. And when you're present, that's when you really get to live life in its highest form, because you're not just filtering everything through your ideas. You're not judging things because you're in that place of gratitude. You've got a deep acceptance, and in that acceptance, there's a kind of dynamic stillness. Like, you're grounded in life because you accept it and embrace it, and you're present, but it's still kind of flowing and moving. And as it does keep flowing and moving, because we're all hurtling towards death, of course, you can flow in a way that is responsive. You can navigate life on a foundation of truth rather than all of the chatter and distractions, etc., that keep people from life when they're denying death. And so ultimately what I'm saying is that the more you go into this acceptance of death, which starts with awareness, the more you'll really become present in your life. And the more you become present in your life, the more you're connected to wholeness. And the more you're connected to wholeness, the more you're just going to kind of keep flowing and keep growing. And that is what makes us feel really alive. And so ultimately, the choice that we all have is between denying what life even is, because we're denying death, which is a part of life, or really accepting it and then just becoming more present in life and enjoying life while we're here. And if you ask me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. So you might as well come to terms with the fact that you're going to die, reframe it if you see it as a negative, and start to see the gift that it actually is. So let's talk a little bit about how we can reframe it. So I've spent most of this video talking about how wonderful death is. Like, it has all of these amazing benefits, like making us more present and more grateful, and we can have better relationships with people. We can focus on our real goals and expressing ourselves. But how do we overcome the fear of death in order to kind of get these benefits? I'll keep this part of the video simple, but ultimately it comes down to reframing. Reframing in the sense of understanding that death isn't this kind of evil specter that kind of haunts us all. It's something that is actually kind of following us and trying to wake us up. And it's trying to wake us up so that we can live a real life. There are a few things that we can do to make it easier to go along with this process of being woken up. The first one is knowing that death is not this evil thing. It's not bad. It's just a natural part of life. Like I keep saying, life and death are two sides of the same coin, and you can't have one without the other. And so all of the things that make life good only really exist because death is a thing. And so if you can understand that and you can focus on it, how natural it is, then that is going to allow you to really just embrace it, to not resist it, but to get to that point of acceptance. The other thing that can really help you is not to see it as something to run away from, but to use it as motivation. Like I keep saying, if you embrace death, which is just a no-brainer if you've listened to all the things that we've said, if you embrace death and you acknowledge that it's coming, then that is motivation to use your time properly. The time that you've got is limited. And so you need to use it if you want to feel good about life and make the most of the life that you have. You need to use it to focus on that real stuff. And if you can do that, then you're going to see results in life, because the more that you invest time in the real things, the more those real things are going to keep growing. And as that does keep happening, you're going to enjoy your life more and more and more, because it's going to become more real, and you're going to feel more present, and you're going to feel more grateful, and it's just opening a kind of positive spiral. And it all starts just by acknowledging that death is coming, time is precious, it's natural, and it can make life beautiful if you embrace it and move with it. Ultimately, it's about choosing to channel the energy and the time and the attention that you do have into a sense of purpose. A purpose really is just about growing real in your own life. So stepping into your own values, your own goals, your own intentions, and then finding a way to share that stuff with other people. Obviously, that's slightly different for all of us, and you might have to do a little bit of inner work to figure out what that looks like. But ultimately, that's what our purpose is, making your values valuable to other people. Once you've figured that out, you can make a choice from moment to moment to stay on that path. You invest your time in it. You don't distract yourself with video games and social media and TV and all this crap all of the time. Obviously, you might watch that stuff sometimes or engage in that stuff sometimes. But if that is predominantly what you're doing, you're basically wasting your life. You can also invest in other people. You can use the time that you have to find people on your wavelengths, to find your tribe, to get out there whilst you can, because death is coming, and to make meaningful connections with other human beings. If the fear does get too much, you can turn to your creativity. You can use that fear as a vehicle for exploration and making the unconscious conscious. You can journal, you can paint, you can write a song, you can write a book, you can make a YouTube video, you can do whatever you want that's going to allow you to talk about these things and to get closer to accepting them. Of course, you can also talk about them with other people. Like, everybody is going through the same human experience, and everybody is interested at some level in the topic of death. And so if you can reach out to people and talk about it, then you're going to be moving towards your purpose, you're going to be growing more real, you're going to be building connections, and you're going to be going deeper and deeper and deeper into acceptance of how life is, what time is, why it's so precious, and why life is amazing if you focus on it and lean into the real shit. So that was a video about death. I don't know why I keep saying it like that, but it was a video about death. And we are going to die one day, and life is precious, time is precious, people are precious, you're precious. Let shit go. Don't waste time thinking about all of the bullshit that people think about, or investing in meaningless activities that aren't going to take you anywhere. They're just going to suck your energy. Ultimately, there is so much bullshit out there about how to live a good life. You need to go dance in the forest, or you need to, like, I don't know, pretend you're from another planet or something, or whatever. At the end of the day, all you really need to do is embrace the fact that you're going to die one day. It's out of your control. And then put yourself on the path of humility and change, and using the time that you do have to make the most of what you do have, if that makes sense. Life is amazing, but it gets more amazing when you realize that it's going to end and you start doing all the things that you want to do with it. Don't be sat there living a life you don't want to live. Obviously, you can't change things overnight, but you can put yourself on the path to change right now. And all it really means is shifting your focus from all of those unreal things that may be distracting you from your real life to the real stuff, and then invest your energy in that. That's ultimately the most spiritual and truthful thing you can do, is focus on what's real about you and doing more of it. So that was the video. We're all going to die, but it's not as bad as it seems. It's actually quite beautiful. If anyone wants to talk about this or anything related, or you want to figure out what to do with your life whilst you are here and how to do it, then you can book a call on my website, ollieanderson.co.uk/talk. I love talking about all this stuff, as you can tell. Just a real conversation if you do book one. Explore ideas, gather some insights, see what's what, and hopefully become more real as a result on both sides. So yeah, book a call if you want. I have a free course, the personality transplant, that starts with a module on death if you want to go deeper into this. But yeah, hope this helped you. Life is awesome. Stay real out there, and peace to you.